Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Last week of September. Oh, my cat's saying hello too. Do you hear him in the background? You probably will in a second. I see somebody popping on here. Make sure I'm live on Instagram too. And hopefully everybody can hear me okay. This is still gives me PTSD. Oh, do you hear my cat? Do you hear him? He wants to talk about his relationship with food. It's breakfast time. He's waiting for his breakfast. That's what you hear him crying about. I make sure I'm live on Instagram. Good morning. Can you guys hear me okay? Just want to make sure I'm live. I think I figured out. Okay. Good morning. I'm a Mercedes. Instagram handles are always very interesting to figure out where people come up with their names. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay because I want to get rolling into today's episode. And I know that sometimes it can be weird. Oh, Holly's on. So good morning. So that must mean that y'all can hear me okay. Because if you couldn't hear me, she'd probably be telling me, "Hey, Cheryl, you're talking, but I see your mouth moving, but I don't hear the words coming out." So that's a good sign. I have a lot of thoughts to talk about today in terms of my topic, because it is something that I have been feeling very pulled to talk about in current situations with people that are going through my jumpstart, in people that are reaching out to me through social media, and conversations that I've been having with people that honestly, it's just opened my eyes to a whole nother world of success that can be achieved through developing a healthier relationship with food, secondary to somebody reaching out to me for fat loss. I get the majority of the people that reach out to me are looking to obviously lose weight, lose fat. Maybe they've been on restrictive diets. Maybe they've been trying macros. They're not getting anywhere. They just feel stuck. And they're like, I know I need to make progress and I'm trying these things and nothing's working. And I know that I need some help. And what you've been saying is really resonating with me. And I honestly, obviously my main goal is, this person wants to look and feel better. But sometimes the surface stuff is what I'm paying attention to as well. And I don't think about the stuff that's going on underneath the surface. And those are the wins that really get me excited. And that's what's really got me fired up to talk about this today, because, two big things that have happened recently that I want to share in my current circle of clients is I have one client who has lost well over 50 pounds. But for the last couple of years, she's kind of struggled a lot with binge and restrict. She's maintained her weight for the most part within 5 or 7 pounds, but the amount of effort it takes for her to maintain it's fucked up her relationship with food, for lack of better terms. And she does have about another, call it 5 or 10 pounds that she'd like to lose. And she just cannot get into the right mindset to do it because she goes through a restrictive phase and then binges. And it's been really exciting to see her take a different approach over the summertime and into the fall. And without even paying attention to the scale, we're getting her leaner. But the main thing is she's like, for once in my life, I'm not binging. Like, this is awesome. And that freedom to me is like, that's what I like to hear. And then I had another case that happened last week. I had a woman start with me in the Jumpstart, and the Jumpstart, this is our last week of the Jumpstart. Actually, today's our final call. And my initial thoughts for where she should be with her calories and macros were around 18 or 1900 for fat loss. And in her first check-in, she was reporting around 14 or 1500. And so my first suggestion to her was, hey, you're doing great. Let's just bump up the carbs a little bit, get you a little bit closer to where I have you. And she's like, honestly, Cheryl, I'm so proud of myself because before starting this, I was barely eating 900 calories a day. And I was like, what? And she's like an Olympic lifter. She's training CrossFit. She's active. And she's like, yeah. She's like, so this is the most food I've ever eaten on a consistent basis. And I was like, it's just it's crazy to me to know that women and men are out there living in these food prisons, and you wouldn't even know it. I wouldn't even know it because they're walking around at the grocery store. You're passing by them in the hallway at work, and maybe it's you're dealing with a lot of food noise, a lot of food guilt, a lot of stuff, and you just don't even know where to start. You don't know how to process it. You you know you need to change, and all the changes you're making are just getting you nowhere, except for, and they're just messing you up more. And what I would like for you guys to do as you're listening to this today, and all my clients when they're working with me, is to realize that like, you are obviously, you can't just wipe the slate clean of the years and years and years of diet baggage, but you can make a decision to be like, okay, likely what has been working for me isn't working for me. And I know I have a lot of things to reverse, but I'm going to start with focusing on one or two things that are going to counter the thought process that I currently have. And that's really how I work with all of my clients, even if it's not related to the relationship with food. It's always about building onto, like, taking you to the next step. I want to take you to the next step. And today that's my main goal. And truly, if you want to get to a place where you can be at a healthy weight, one that also you are confident in your body, you know, you're showcasing the hard work you put in the gym and in life, or you're just healthy, like you maybe you have a lot of weight to lose and you're struggling to commit to it because it just feels like, you know, you're stuck in this cycle. I want you guys to understand how you can do both at the same time if you take a different approach. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the things you might be struggling with and giving you guys a different way of looking at them and approaching this whole journey, because that's what's helped me in my own life. And in fact, sharing a little bit about my story, I feel like my health journey did start off as somewhat healthy, but healthy is very subject to who you're talking to. And when I say healthy, I think the healthiest habit I ever did was switching from literally eating takeout all the time to cooking my own food. Like, I'm like, okay, I got to stop relying on takeout. And I know that's delicious, but I need to start cooking my own food. And at first it was like, I had cooking skills, but cooking healthy was new to me, you know? So I had to learn that. And that was the first skill that I ever learned. But because there wasn't really enough information about just what it looked like to be healthy, because healthy is, again, subjective, I kind of fell into the trap of restriction. And that led me down a dark path. And when I came out of that dark path, I found CrossFit and was given this thought that maybe I didn't have to live restricted by calories, but instead I was restricted by food groups. And now I no longer ate grains and dairy, and I, you know, binged on nuts and nut butter. So it was like, it's just recognizing that I have also been through, and even my relationship with exercise is still a work in progress. Still to this day, it's still a work in progress for me, figuring out, okay, is this Cheryl training for a way that's going to make me fitter as an athlete? Or is this, I'm not working it hard enough, I need to be doing more work? Like, there's still things that I have to struggle with myself. But it's all about understanding one thing. Healthy is not subject to what you're eating. It's really how you're thinking about what you're eating. It's really a mindset. Health isn't so much about the person that eats super clean and exercises 5 to 6 days a week and gets their 10,000 steps a day and gets 8 to 9 hours of sleep. It's the balance of, what does a person feel when they're doing those things? Are they building relationships, or are they living their life only to live in these healthy habits? It's like, honestly, why I still talk all the time about how I don't have this like 10-step morning routine. Why? Because I don't need that kind of stress in my life. Do I have an extra hour in my day to like freaking meditate in the morning and do all this stuff? No, like, I've made my lifestyle the way that I want to do it. You know, are you avoiding like living your life because you're always working? Like, that's not healthy either. That's something that I struggle with. Like, I'm still working on developing a healthy lifestyle, one that has balance in it. And at the end of the day, life balances out. I know I'm going off on some tangents. Like I said, I'm going to get into some rants and rambles today, because this is a subject that is very, very, very personal to me. Because like I said, I still struggle with a lot of this stuff myself, and still judge myself in a lot of ways on, is this healthy or is this not healthy? Like, for instance, last night, for example, I am currently right now in a phase where I am trying to gain a little bit of weight. And last night I'm like not hungry, and it's, you know, 6:30, and I just really wanted to like have my Ninja Creamy and go to bed. But I'm like, I have to eat another 200-ish calories. Like, that's intentionally eating for a goal, right? So I'm like, I don't really know what I feel like eating. Fuck it. I'm having a few Oreos. I didn't even want the Oreos. I know you guys are like, oh, that must be nice. You just have Oreos. But the whole time I'm like, why am I eating these Oreos when I don't even want them? Because I have a goal. Like that's, in the grand scheme of things, I'm doing something that is slightly out of just my intuitive need, which might not feel right or authentic to me and necessarily healthy, but it's because it's going to get me to a goal. So I still struggle with this stuff too. Anyways, let's get into a little bit of why for today's topic. So the main reason for my why today for talking about this with you guys is that I feel like there is very much a black and white in so many things in life, but specifically with a food relationship and chasing body composition goals. And in my opinion, the women that have the best body composition and the healthiest relationship with food and themselves is, and anybody, like men or women, is they have both, is they have not gotten themselves into extremes, or they have broken free of extremes. But I feel like all that people are being shown is either if you're overweight, you're unhealthy. Like in the last week, I talked about CrossFit. It's demonizing sugar and carbs, and this is the fix, and we've got to clean up. You got to be super strict. It almost makes you feel like you're not doing good enough if you're not adhering to all of those rules. And then there's the people that are like, fuck diets, like diet culture sucks. And like, I'm just going to go all in on like, I'm not working out, I'm eating whatever I want. And they talk about how they were so miserable in the process of like gaining weight and just being at their, it's just, there's no in between of like, okay, where can we meet in the middle? And I feel like since day one of the things I have always wanted people to know is I want you guys to meet in the middle. I want everybody to meet in the middle. I want there to be a place in the middle where you can live your best life, being healthy, being fit, enjoying food, but also knowing that enjoying food doesn't like have to always be about indulging all the time, right? Like it's knowing the balance that you guys need. And the problem really is there is nobody teaching you balance. It's very much black or white. Don't count calories because calories are obsessive. And then it's, count calories because that's the only way to lose weight. And like, it's just, there's nothing in between. And I want to really encourage you to take my advice today and apply it to yourself. If you feel like that is you're constantly living in the black and white and you're never giving yourself any credit for the hard work that you're doing and the little things. Okay. So let's kind of roll into some things today. All right. So here are a lot of the common problems I find, and I'm sorry, guys, I like thoroughly enjoy my coffee in the morning, and y'all get to have coffee with me. When we are talking about, I think the main reason why this is so important for me to talk about is that I feel like the only way people know how to lose weight, lose fat, and get healthier is by telling themselves they have to be in extremes. So I want to go over some of those extremes. One of them being like big calorie deficits or extreme dietary changes. Like you go from, all right, I'm eating whatever I want. So now I'm like only eating protein and I'm eating very low calories. I'm using a calorie calculator that's telling me how much to eat. And you're eating by numbers, or you're literally removing all of the foods that you enjoy. Maybe you're somebody that's living in a chronic calorie deficit. You're that loose tracker and you're tracking 1,400 calories most days. And then the days that you don't track, you don't know how much you're eating, right? You're living in this constant cycle of like, I'm restricting myself because I'm on track. It's my 30-day reset. And then it's like, I'm eating whatever I want. I'm binging. Some people are over exercising. Maybe you're somebody that doesn't feel confident allowing yourself to take a rest day, or you're somebody that knows you need to get into an exercise habit, but you're so focused on perfection. And rather than checking 2 workouts off a week, you're like, I got to get into the gym 5 or 6 days a week. And you're not even committing to the 2, like finding the balance there. I think the biggest thing I find is that people are so afraid or stressed about calories because they've only ever avoided like them. Like they're, oh my God, that's so bad to have too many calories. Or like I've got to only eat so many calories. Like that's a huge problem. And calories, when we talk about body composition, are one of the biggest things, calories and macros. But because people get so obsessed with like numbers and being perfect, it's ruining the relationship with food and making that tool effective. Being so reactive to the scale. So many of you guys either avoid the scale altogether because it's not time to focus on it, or you obsess about it every single day and like waiting for it to go down. Like it's like a freaking, like you just put a hole in a bucket and it's just going to pour off every single day. Your body doesn't work that way. And I think another one is like you're either living in a place where like you're either not dieting so that you can eat whatever you want, or you're never enjoying food and you're always like on track with your food. You're literally avoiding eating out with your family. You're cooking your own food all the time. You're never going out to dinner. Your kids are asking you why you never eat with them. It's this constant like black or white. Maybe you're somebody who like, you're always worrying about what other people are going to say about your food, whether it's, oh, she's like in a restrictive eating pattern because she's eating healthy and that makes you feel judged. So then you end up eating what everybody else is, or you eat what everybody else is just to avoid that. Like you're always worrying about that. And I think the biggest one here is, this is a really big one. You have become so sensitized to external validation, like the scale and calorie prescriptions, and so desensitized to your body's natural hunger and fullness needs. Like that's really the biggest problem. Everybody is so conditioned to be focusing on external things like calories and weight. And that is what you should be living by, these rigid rules, and then completely losing touch of what your appetite is asking you for and what your body is asking you for. I know I still struggle with this, with exercise. Like I am being very vulnerable right now. I have athletic goals and there are days that I go into the gym and I'm like, I don't feel great. And then instead of like just walking out of the gym, I'm like, no, you got to stick it out, buttercup. Like suck it up, buttercup. In fact, giving you a personal story about this. Last year, I was in the hospital just after Thanksgiving for a week. But the 2 to 3 weeks leading up to that hospital stay, my body was giving me signals. And I am very, very, very in tune. I am very in tune with my body. I'm very calculated. And I know because I keep track of my workouts, and I know my aerobic base is a really good place for me to tell when my body's not in a good place. So when things like biking, rowing, running starts to get really hard, and I know that those are typically things that I normally feel really good at, something's not right. And I was not listening to my body until I remember last Thanksgiving, literally trying to pull the turkey out of the oven and being like, oh my God, I think I'm going to pass out. Something is not right in my body. But the week leading up to that, I was literally on the Echo bike talking to myself as though I was a piece of shit. I was like, you are so weak. What is wrong with you? Suck it up. Like, go faster, push harder. You're not pushing hard enough. Because I was trying to figure out why I was not going at my paces that I was able to keep. Later that week, I found out my hemoglobin levels were low. I needed a blood transfusion. And that started me recognizing that I have got to be more in tune with my body. And it was one of the scariest things I went through, but for a good reason. And so you got to, and I'm telling you that from a vulnerable perspective of like, you've got to be in tune with your body. And what that did show me, because I couldn't work out for a week, is me taking a week off wasn't going to kill me. So it's just something that you guys have to realize. The biggest problem is we are all so conditioned to look external for what we know internal is right. And that's truly the key to you fixing your relationship with food. And it's not the eat whatever you want mindset. It's not waking up and being like, today I feel like having a Pop-Tart and a Frappuccino for breakfast. It's finding the balance between knowing that you are so far off from where your body knows what it needs that we have to have some intent with intuition. Okay. So like maybe right now you do crave something sugary in the morning because that's like what your body is craving. So maybe you should have a sweet breakfast. But it's like, okay, your body also likely hasn't been getting enough protein. And that might be why you're craving sugar. So maybe we should also include some protein and see if that doesn't help you feel better. Maybe you feel more in control, you have more energy. And then your body's like, oh, I feel good today now that I had protein in the morning. So I want to have protein again tomorrow. And guess what happens? You start craving protein in the morning, not just sugar. I know this. I went through this. As I mentioned earlier, I grew up and like when I was early 20s, I was fast food junkie. I was like, everything was takeout, burgers, fries, pizza, chicken wings. Like those were staples in my diet. And the ones that I cooked and the meals that I cooked at home, it was like rice-a-roni and fried chicken and macaroni and cheese. It was not healthy. But the less I ate that stuff, the less I craved it. To this day, I crave the foods that I consume on a normal basis. That will happen to you. You will intuitively start craving the foods that you change in your diet. So I want to kind of segue a little bit into why I'm talking about this and kind of be like, but you're like, Cheryl, you want me to be intuitive, but now you're telling me about this intentional stuff. Like I'm getting a little bit confused because that's what I was trying to do. You're doing it wrong. Okay. When I talk about nutrition changes, because when most people come to me, this stuff is secondary to the main thing, right? As I'm looking at your diet, I'm assessing your food quality, what kinds of food you're eating. I look at your meal frequency, your meal timing. I look at all that stuff and kind of, figure out what your life looks like when you eat more of your calories, when you don't eat enough calories, your calorie intake and your macronutrient breakdown, what meals have what. I look at all that stuff. And the stuff that I'm talking to you about today becomes secondary to me fixing the food stuff. Okay. But why I'm telling you this is because when I start talking about things like calories and macros with my clients, you might be hearing, okay, we're going back into this. I've got to be tracking macros to a T and I've got to be hitting calories to a T. And one of the things that I really encourage all of my clients to do, and even if you're not a client of mine, you're just listening to this and you're getting some value out of it, and you are a macro tracker, is to stop eating by numbers. And instead, knowing it's like, I love using money as an analogy. If you haven't already learned this, is knowing that you have, in your finances, you have your priorities, right? You've got to keep your rent payment or your mortgage payment. You've got to pay the electric bill. You've got to pay the cable bill if you have cable. You got to, put gas in your car, pay your car insurance, your health insurance. You've got your basic financial needs, right? And then you've got, extra money for whatever you want to have. You want to go out to eat. You want to go on a vacation. You want to go see a movie. You want to buy yourself something nice, right? Those are like more like you can spend it however you want. And that's kind of how I approach calories and macros with my clients is I need to make sure that you're getting enough of these foods. And then from there, it's what feels good to you. Like, I had a woman in the Jumpstart and she's like, it's just hard. What I struggle with is after dinner, I might have like 300 calories left, but maybe it's like I have all fat left. And I don't want to just sit there and eat 3 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm like, well, don't. You've got 300 calories left. Have freaking dessert. Like, I don't care what it is. But what if I go over on carbs and protein? That's okay. Still within your calories. Like, you've gotten to the minimums, and the rest of it is based on you. What do you feel like having? And that's how you can get back to being intuitive with your food while still being able to chase the goals you have for yourself. It's learning how to also pay attention to biofeedback. So when I give my clients calories and macronutrient goals, and maybe they have a day where they're like, I'm starving today. So a lot of times women on their cycle, I am just ravenous. And I don't want them feeling like a failure if they go over on their calories. In fact, I encourage my clients to go over on their calories. Why? Because chances are, if they're not, they're either in that place of, I've got to be doing this by the T, or they're probably not tracking everything. It's true. They're going to have days where they just, like, I'll have a client that's like 11 or 1,200 calories. And she's telling me that she gets cravings for chips, but I never see chips logged. she's eating chips and she's not tracking them, right? So I encourage honesty with intuition and knowing that that is me teaching you how to listen to your body and work with it, not against it. Sometimes I bring calories up. Sometimes like we need to eat a little bit more. Okay. It's really looking at finding that balance of intent and intuition. And when it comes to fat loss, it should not be so miserable that you feel like crap every single day. So if your energy is tanking and all these things are going wrong, then that's probably too low of calories. Another client story. I have a client who struggles with Lyme's disease, and she's in a calorie deficit. And about 3 weeks ago, she's like, "Yeah, I'm having a little bit of a Lyme flare up, and my energy's been really low, and just haven't been feeling like myself. But I've been forcing myself through things." I'm like, you know what? Let's go ahead and try and bring up your calories for a week or two. And what do you know? It wasn't a Lyme symptom. She just needed a little bit more food, but she was so unintuitive with that. She had like not even recognized that it was just her body needing energy. She thought it was a Lyme flare up, so this is where I want you guys to feel a bit of you have a say in this, and you don't have to be afraid that listening to your body means that you're not going to be able to make progress happen. My clients make progress happen while we navigate through this stuff. When you avoid this stuff, you stay stuck, you stay frustrated, you feel like you're living in a diet prison, and you normally burn out. You get to a place of burnout, and then you're starting all over again, okay? Another thing that I really like to encourage my clients is that there's an importance to have structure in your nutrition, especially in the beginning. If you're somebody that does struggle with a relationship with food, structure can be the best thing, but being flexible with that as well is like, okay, yes, I do try and stick to 5 or 6 meals a day, but it doesn't mean that I have to eat at the same exact time every single day, right? I'm not like just randomly grabbing food throughout the day, because these are also behaviors that are negative in terms of relationship with food. I think that there's also an importance to understand that hunger is okay, and that we don't have to always be impulsive, right? And this is also like the other side of the relationship with food that people struggle with is, yeah, there's a whole group of people that are very, very, very dialed in and strict, and they don't allow themselves to have anything. But there's a whole other school of people on the other side that's like every time they're hungry or they get the urge to eat, they're just eating. I think it's normalizing what it looks like to delay gratification. If you're like, you're just hungry and you just start grabbing random things, like, yeah, that's probably working against you for your body comp goals. But if you're like, okay, I'm hungry, I'm getting this feeling, is it time for a snack soon? Like, am I truly hungry? Am I bored? And actually paying attention to those things. Like, this is the stuff that nobody wants to think about, but it's important. And sometimes just being like, you know what? I'm going to see what happens if I'm hungry right now and my snack is in an hour and I just don't eat until snack time. Or what happens if I eat a little bit early? That's something else. Is on the other side, the client that always saves calories for later. What happens if you eat your snack a little bit early? Maybe you don't eat as much later on. I think we're so afraid of this, like we're afraid of hunger. We're afraid of what's going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. In fact, if you've ever fasted for labs, which I hate doing, nothing bad's going to happen. Like you've done it before. Okay. I think it's really important to just understand that like dialing in your nutrition for body comp should not be this like perfectionism plan. Like, unless you are getting ready to step on stage for a bodybuilding show, you do not need all that perfection, because at the end of the day, what is the goal? The goal is not for you to lose fat. I say this all the time. So the fat loss is not the goal. The goal is, I would like to live lean. I want to be in a lean body. I want to be in a healthy body. I don't want to be overweight. I want to be able to run and not feel like a freaking Clydesdale. Like, I feel like a Clydesdale right now when I run, by the way. And I am not overweight. But I want to feel good in my body. I want to, put on clothes and feel confident. I don't want to feel like I have to choose. And, and I'm saying this because there's a lot of people that I might be talking to today, but there's two main people in my head. The overweight person who is living in this place of preaching body positivity is I don't care. I am happy being my size. And you should be. You should be happy because if you are making changes to your nutrition and your lifestyle to make sure that you're getting enough food, great. But if you're still living with excess body fat and you're trying to lose it, or you're avoiding losing it, you're holding yourself back because it's likely because you're afraid of going back into a restrictive pattern, and you don't have to. You can find balance, because the reason why you're probably still stuck is because there's things that you're doing in life right now that feel hard to change and you don't have control over them. Like whether it is emotional eating, or it's you just always eat what everybody else is, or that's your only way of finding fun is what you're eating. Like whatever where you're not working out enough, whatever, so. And on the other side of the spectrum is the person that is living in a restrictive mindset just to stay a certain size. Like they're literally running around, like they're just living in a constant state of diet prison because they don't know any other way. And maybe that's you, or that has been you. And now you're gaining weight back and you're not happy. And you're already feeling the pull to get back into a fat loss phase. Okay. Do it the right way. And the right way is not following a rigid plan. It's understanding nutrition. It's looking at calories for what they are, units of energy. It's understanding your energy needs. It's knowing that a deficit does not have to be extreme to be effective. It's knowing how to make small changes to your nutrition that will have a big impact. It's understanding how to read the scale and not being hyper-reactive to it or avoiding it. It's knowing that your nutrition is not an on and an off switch. Your body is constantly breaking down food regardless of what you're eating. So it shouldn't start and stop on a certain day of the week or a certain day of the year. It should just be a continuous thing. There should be no bulking and cutting. Again, unless you are a bodybuilder. Bodybuilders are a different story. That is their sport. Okay. So I don't know who this is for today. I hope it's hitting some home for a lot of you guys. But one of the things that I wanted to do is I would like to do I don't even know what to call them, workshop, seminar, webinar. Call it a Zoom. Okay. I would love to do a meetup, a virtual meetup. How about that? A virtual meetup with me in the month of October. I do like to do these things, I like to do them monthly, but the month of September was very busy because my Jumpstart crew is crushing it. And they've had a meetup with me every single week. So that's been taking my meetup time. But I would like to do a virtual meetup and discuss some of this stuff with you, talk about a lot of the struggles, and we can really talk about everything. I really have a lot of pull to talk about people that are struggling with want to chase body composition goals, but they fear that because of its disordered eating background that they can't do that. And knowing that you're still living in that fear. Like I understand that fear. In fact, do you know a valid fear of mine that was holding me back from gaining weight for a long time was the fear that because I had a disordered eating background that I am not allowed to be in a fat loss phase. Yep. That's disordered. It is disordered for me to believe that if I accidentally gain too much weight, that I am not allowed to be in a fat loss phase because of my eating disorder history. That's not normal, but somebody wouldn't even think about that. But a lot of people struggle with dialing in their nutrition because they fear getting obsessed with it again. And I am very big about promoting that we should have autonomy in nutrition. It should feel natural. And knowing that there are seasons of life that maybe you are focusing on a goal a little bit more, right? If you're training for a CrossFit competition, or you're training for a High Rocks competition, or you're training for anything, if you're in life, you're studying for, you're learning a new, or you're going through a new course for work, or you're in school, like you're studying for something and it's probably taking up some of your mental energy. Those are normal stressors. I think what's happened is food has become such a stressful thing for most people that it's kind of been taken off the table as something that you should worry about. That it's like, nope, you just got to stop worrying about it, or you worry too much about it. And that's where I want to find the happy medium for you. So I am going to be doing a workshop webinar, virtual meetup. We're going to call it a virtual meetup. How about that? If anybody has a better name for it, we will. Next month, October, because it's already the end of, can you believe it's already the end of September? Crazy. So I'll be planning that. And I would love to, if you are somebody that's kind of in this place of like, yes, I only know restriction. I would love to dial in my nutrition, but don't know where to start without feeling restricted. Or I'm struggling with making changes. That's what I'm here for. And I want to talk a lot about this because it's something that I'm very passionate about. So I'm going to pop over to comments and see, have you tried your new coffee maker anymore? Holly, I am drinking out of my regular coffee pot now. I have officially finished off all of my instant coffee. So we are stuck with brewed coffee now. And I'm getting used to it. However, I did just purchase from Paper Street Coffee, and I'm waiting for that to come in. But what I also did was, so when I first bought my new coffee pot, for those of you guys, let me catch up because Holly's asking about coffee and you might not know about coffee, is I have been drinking instant coffee for a couple years now. And about a month-ish ago, I decided to invest in a new coffee pot. And I was like, oh, I want to start brewing coffee again. And I started to just, and this could be a health thing, but I was like, you know what? I'm sure I read a lot about coffee and how there can be better quality coffee and coffee beans, whatever. So I was like, let me get brewed good quality coffee. And I went and I purchased a like $19 bag of coffee. And oh my gosh, I'm like, this coffee is like, I want my instant coffee. And so I've been drinking it still and I've gotten used to it. But funny enough, when this bag is over, when I went grocery shopping last week, I bought, because the instant coffee that I drink is the Cafe Bustelo. And if you are Floridian, you know, it's a very big, like in the Cuban population, it's like a big thing. The Cafe Bustelo it's a espresso coffee. Anyways, it's cheap. And I bought their brewed coffee. So I'm going to try that next time. But yeah. Netse says, I can't mentally deal with meal prep too much. After the pandemic, I started hating the kitchen. I haven't really gotten granola since. Okay. This is also a big problem that a lot of people face when they're trying to dial in their nutrition is, again, that's something that needs to be natural for you. Like, I don't meal prep. I don't. I do a little bit of food prep, but not a lot. So for instance, my food prep this week was on Saturday, I cooked a pound of ground beef. And for dinner, I throw sweet potatoes in the air fryer and a bag of green beans in the microwave. And I put that together in a bowl and I add some sauce to it. However, I ran out of the beef yesterday. So what did I do today? I pulled out a pack of chicken thighs and I will probably throw that in the oven later on today. And then I'll have that to eat off of for a couple of days. But I think that it comes down to, you have to know what your schedule is like. And at the end of the day, you're eating something. So it's knowing how can you just change what you're eating. You might not have to prep anything. It's what are you currently eating and how can you make that better choices for your goals, right? So you have to be cooking or eating something or you're eating out every single meal, right? And that's where we have to develop some responsibility and that it's not disordered to take your nutrition seriously enough to actually cook for yourself. It's just making cooking for yourself not feel like this big extravaganza. You know, cooking for yourself can be as simple as putting a turkey sandwich together or putting a salad together. It's really not that complicated, but people tend to overcomplicate it. Sky says, I eat really healthy diet. I have an active job and train. I feel like I'm always hungry. I'm eating around 2,200 calories, 5'9", but I'm just hungry all the time. Sky, I'm curious, are you in a fat loss phase or are you maintaining at that? Because that will help me answer your question a little bit more. And Sky, you can feel free to message me and I would love to just kind of talk to you a little bit more about that. I think you're on YouTube, so I will try and hit you up there. But you can send me a DM on Instagram or social, Facebook, whatever. I'll put my email addresses in here too. But I would gladly talk to you about that. But my question really is, are you in a fat loss phase or are you in a maintenance phase? If you are 5'9", eating 2,200 calories, and you are maintaining your weight, I would say you might need to be eating more. So 5 a.m. squat club. I love that name, by the way. Although me squatting at 5 a.m. would not be a good idea. I probably would break my knees. Eat more animals. Yeah, vegans would not like to hear that, I will say. But I am a huge proponent for getting in plenty of animal-based protein. So definitely not opposed to that. However, I do think that protein also gets overemphasized and can lead to some disordered eating behaviors. In fact, I've had to correct women who are eating upwards of 200 grams of protein and barely eating any carbs. And I'm okay with you eating more protein because you like it, but not at the expense of not getting enough carbs. Yes, vegans, 5 a.m. squat club. There are vegans in this world that do not eat animal-based protein. I am not a vegan, but I also do have a couple of vegan clients. If that's their choice, I will make sure it works for them. Again, we're all about lifestyle changes. If somebody doesn't want to kill an animal to eat, it's not my decision to tell them what to do. So I'm fine with it. I will always make it work. I am going to look over onto Instagram just to see if I had any questions here. Does anybody have any questions, struggles with relationship with food? And I know this is a very touchy subject, so you can maybe feel a bit vulnerable sharing, but that's also why I've been pretty open about sharing my own struggles, because at the end of the day, if we're not talking about it, we're not fixing it. And that's why I want to have that discussion with you guys in a closed environment. So if that is something that you're interested in, shoot me a DM and we will talk in a private situation where there's a group of us. Sky says, I was trying to eat 1,800 in a deficit, but just couldn't do it. But I feel like I'm gaining slight weight. So Sky, let me just give you some feedback. I actually have a client. She came from a restrictive dieting background. She has lost and gained the same 15-ish pounds for the last, I don't know how many years. And she was only ever able to lose weight by being in a big deficit. And the reason I'm saying this is her body type. I don't know what you look like, but she's tall. I think she's 5'9" or 5'10". She's not a small female. She's definitely got more muscle on her. And she started off with me closer to 2,900 calories. And her deficit is between 2,200 and 2,400 calories. But it did take us a little while to figure that out. She was having, she eats a very good diet, very clean diet. In fact, I think she came from more of like a carnivore style diet because she eats very much like, she's got that like ground beef, dates, sweet potato, cottage cheese, like that very simple food diet. But we definitely have got her now in a fat loss phase at between 22 and 24. And sometimes like on her cycle, she does hit somewhere between 25 and 2,600 calories, a couple of days a month. And that's still working for us pretty well. And the cool thing about her, when we talk about relationship with food, is last week when we had our check-in, she's like, I know I could be seeing a little bit faster progress, but I honestly don't want to lower my calories. And I'm like, win, because the only thing she's ever known is like so restrictive diets. And for her to have shifted to be like, this is feeling so good, I'm like, winning. Again, this is what I mean by fixing your relationship with food can actually improve your body composition. So Sky, you can feel free to message me. I'll make sure, let me see if I can post, I'll put my email address here for you if this is easier for you. Cheryl, it's just Cheryl at FitBodyRX, but you can just message me there if you want to, if that worked. If you would like to talk, I can give you a little bit more personal stuff, so I'm not just blowing up your stuff on Instagram here. But any other questions, guys, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram? We should talk about that relationship with alcohol. That's a whole nother animal. Let me tell you, that's like somebody's, I don't know. That's probably a whole nother discussion. Alcohol. It's funny because a lot of the women that I have that or even the men that struggle with eating enough, they're like, I don't know why I'm overweight. And I'm like, well, what do you eat? They're like, I eat a lot of like meat and cheese and this and that. And they never list any carbs. And I'm like, how much are you drinking? I'm like, oh, I drink every night. I'm like, oh, well, there's where all your calories are coming from. Imagine if you were doing that. Oh, I have a couple of other clients in Australia, Sky. You're definitely, it's like nighttime there, I think. I think it's late there right now, actually. I think you're like late. Because 8 p.m. is 12 hours. Yeah, it's got to be late there. I had a client that was in Australia, and I remember when I met him, it was at nighttime and it was the morning there. So it's got to be pretty late there. Yeah, it was close, 10 p.m. Yeah, definitely shoot me an email and we can coordinate it. I actually have a client with somebody. I have a call with somebody in New Zealand on Friday, one of my clients. So not quite Australia, but close. So we can chat via email and go back and forth. So make sure that make sure you're eating enough for your goals. All right, guys, that's all I really have today. I know this was kind of a lot. Like I said, I was going to ramble a lot, but I do want to end on just telling you that if you struggle with making the decision of, I know I want to be losing weight, but I also don't want to feel like I'm constantly in a diet mindset or stress out, whatnot, I can help. Holly, good question. Not sure if it goes here, but sensitive tummy, reflux, making food not fun. So that will get better, Holly. It just, I know you're in the jump start, but we really need to work on just kind of shifting a little bit of meal timing, and that isn't so much about like, because of, it's more so about timing it around less stressful times in your day and making sure that when you're eating, you're not eating when you're stressed out. I know that for you specifically, that's probably one of the biggest things that you are struggling with your acid reflux. People often, and that's a whole other subject, is like a lot of people focus on whenever you guys are having like gut problems with nutrition, oftentimes it's not the food that's the problem. It's the digestion of the food that's the problem. And you have to look at the things that impact the digestion of the food. And this is also where like functional medicine does you wrong. And that they're like, just stop eating these vegetables and just stop eating these foods and just stop eating. And it's like, stop eating sugar. And it's like, no, like, why are we not addressing this person's issues with digesting these foods? Funny enough, I had a girl in my Jumpstart, we were talking about this, and she showed me these digestive enzymes that her doctor had given her. And I'm like, yo, you just need some Beano. The digestive enzyme she was taking was like a $60 bottle of enzymes and wasn't even touching the enzymes that her body needed to break down the food that she was struggling with. I'm like, you just need some fucking Beano. So funny. So crazy. But all right, I think I am done ranting for the day. But pay attention. I will be posting, sign up for that virtual event, virtual meetup for next month. If y'all need me, you know where to find me. I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.